Hi, this is Farrell. Welcome to Robot Todd, pages 4 and 5 from issue 4. They're the thumbnails, the first couple panels. I don't have anything drawn in, as you can see, because I was planning on using that, which is an old thumbnail drawing from like the first incarnation of Robot Todd. Speaking of old drawings, there's a old pencil sketch that I'm just inking. It was just like Todd on roller skates, just to get the juices flowing, it's a warm-up drawing. And I'd also worked a little bit on the East Coast sketch, which I'll show you here in a minute. But right now I'm just ruling out these panel borders. I take the previous pages that I did and sort of base them off that with the ruler and rule them out. It's not much science to it. There's East Coast, the new incarnation, or reincarnation, I should say. After the 4th issue, East is going to look like that. And here's a couple characters I'm working on for this page. Zian and O'Dirtle the Tall. I come up with a bunch of character designs a few months ago, I guess now, for a different character, and then I'd kind of recycling them on this page because I wanted SEPT to be telling her origin story. And I had a couple different ideas of how I wanted her to acquire EMBER in that suitcase that she's always carrying around. But then I ended up thinking like, oh, it'd be cool if she was like an apprentice to some wizards. So in the 3rd panel, you can see that I'm adding the SEPT character, and the 4th panel was originally going to be a black panel, but I already did that on a previous page, and I didn't want to like repeat myself, and I did a lot of revisions in like the writing stage. I had this whole other idea planned about SEPT getting captured by Shadowsman and some evil wizard, maybe even East or West doing some kind of experiments on her, but I just scrapped all that. Here I'm referencing my old book, The Wrenchies, for this one scene in particular, shot of SEPT standing there in the first panel. I wanted to sort of base the background off that one panel in The Wrenchies where you see these children being dropped off by it's sort of like after they've been dropped off by the Nephilim, these mysterious figures that breed these children to fight on the surface of the earth in this like post-apocalyptic world. And that's all in the Wrenchies. It's you see the kids and the fighting gangs and all that kind of stuff in that book. And it's actually out of print now, but you can see at the end of the video we're going to be doing a new version of it, hardbound version of it, from Floating World Comics. We're going to do a crowdfunder for it and stuff. So more on that later. Right now, let's focus on these pages, and you can see these are rough pencils. And if you look at the end, these compared to the end of the video, the finished page, they're pretty accurate. I didn't really do a lot of erasing as far as like the figure work and stuff like that. Normally, like backgrounds and figures and all that fun stuff, I end up doing a couple different versions of, not all the time, sometimes, but on this spread, the reason it took me so long, and it's been the case for the past few pages spreads, is the writing, not just the lettering, but the actual script. I did a lot of rewriting, revisions, and I do a lot of that on the page. Like I write it in a text document, and I try to get it pretty close to what I want in the text document, but as I'm drawing, the dialogue just changes. I don't know what it is, but it's something like the characters kind of like take over, and I'm just like, this sounds too much like my voice, or this sounds too much like someone else's voice, or what, and I like while I'm writing, I'm trying to figure out like, how would SEPT actually talk? Like, how does SEPT communicate things? Like, how do I want SEPT to talk? Not just what I want her to say, but how verbose is she? Like, what words would she use or wouldn't use, or what words would Todd not use? What would Todd not even think about? Like, part of the challenge of this page was one of the bigger challenges as far as like writing goes, was that second panel on page 5, and right above Todd's head is like his thought bubble. I felt like even to the very end, even after I scanned it, it was like a little too wordy, and I ended up shuffling around and kind of rewriting a little bit, not a lot, but rewriting a little bit of that particular panel. So here I just lettered the pages with the Faber-Castell Pitt pen, size S. I used to use size F, which just stands for fine, I guess. So all my materials are getting smaller and smaller. So here I'm transitioning from the pen to the brush. And some of it I actually did a little bit with pen, like Sep's hair there, and I think I started a couple of things where I started using the pen and it was like, oh wait, I want to use the brush in this, but I get kind of like intoxicated. You can see the word balloons I started to do with the pen. Mobius talks about like becoming like intoxicated with making a line. So I think that's what happens with me sometimes, where I just start, oh, I'm using a pen, I'll just keep inking, and it's like, oh no, wait, I want you to use the brush with this now. The first bunch of these I did ink with a pen, the first bunch of pages in the first issue at least. And then at some point, I don't know, issue 2 or 3 or something, I started just kind of using a brush, and they've started taking me a lot longer too, which I don't know if that has to do with the amount of detail that I'm putting in the pages or my tools or what. So I don't know if you can see the difference there between the few lines I made with the pen or previous pages that I've done with pen and pages that I've done with a brush. And the brush again is Raphaël 8404. I used to use number 4 when I was like, that's what I inked Omega the Unknown with, and the wrenchies and pretty much like all my... The wrenchies I used some pen in some pages, but most of it was done with the number 4. And then I think around issue 2 or 3 or something, I switched from using number 4 to number 2 just because I'm working a lot smaller, and it's just, I don't know, easier and more fun for me to use a smaller brush now. Maybe one day I'll go back to working big again, but I guess the theory is anyway is that they'll take me less time working on these smaller. I'll get them done faster. But I don't know if that is proven the case, because I feel like I used to be a lot faster, but I don't know if I was quite as good of a draftsman as I am now, and a composer of panels and a storyteller and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting doing these videos for so many years now and seeing the different waves my progress has made, or the progress I've made on these pages, where there seems like there's sometimes where it's like I'm doing a page a week, or sometimes 2 pages in a week. And it seems like lately, and this has been the case a few times, where it's like, oh, I do 2 pages in a month. But I would ideally like to get back to the rhythm of consistently doing 2 pages a week. I don't know if I'll be able to get there until the end of the year, but this book is coming out hopefully this year. I'm soliciting it through Diamond and Lunar and all that stuff. Through Floating World Comics, they're going to be publishing it, and it's a local comic shop. It's a really great shop, and they put out a bunch of cool books in Portland, Oregon. So that's pretty big news. I'll post more about that as the time comes. So here's the ink that I use. It's a Dr. Martin's Black Star ink, and I usually use the matte kind versus the high carb. And I have this old contact lens cases in this little styrofoam taped up thing to hold my ink and all that I just made in college, I think, or just out of college, like 20 years ago or whatever that was. And here's the brush, the number 2. It's still pretty new. I've used it a couple times at this point. Make sure I clean it out regularly. There's a little setup, and these pages are getting pretty close to being done with the inks. And I already started doing, you might have seen back a little bit, that I started doing ink washes on them. The second page, or page 5, I guess, so 4 looks nearly there with the inks. Page 5 still needs a little work in the background and stuff. And I think I just left like a few things here uninked. And then I started adding some washes. I'd already done a wash to Sep's outfit. I don't know why I do that. I just kind of bounce around. If I've got like working on 2 pages, I rarely will start in the first panel and finish in the last panel, just go straight through like in order. I usually will start with something that just seems more fun for me to ink. And I do that with color too, where it's like, oh, I want to ink all of this stuff, and or color all of this stuff right now, or use this color. So here I started laying in some very light washes. You can see some green there in the sky. I wanted to keep it consistent with the pages 2 and 3, where I had that kind of green. And I've been trying to, with each scene of the book, to sort of have like a different color palette, or like like one scene takes place at night, and this issue so far, it's like the Sept and Todd roll into the town, and the sky is kind of a yellow, hazy green, And then in the flashback, I wanted the green to be really almost kind of neon. And so this is sort of like a continuation of that. And I wanted to keep some of the color stuff happening. Like when they go to their underground layer, I wanted that to feel a little darker and more oppressive, but still have some colors tying in from the other panels, like the orange on the car there. It's like the same or similar orange to the car that Todd and SEPT are driving as well. They're even sort of have a kind of similar feels to them. It looks like I'm kind of contradicting what I said earlier, because I pretty much almost entirely finished the first page before I started on the second page, or I should say page 4 and page 5. And it looks like the thing that was holding me up on page 4 was Cyan. Like I wasn't sure what I wanted her color scheme to be, so I just decided to leave it alone for now. And actually, there's a couple of little spots there on page 4 that I didn't finish, and just jumped onto page 5. Left those two or those few things, and then started working on page 5. Page 5 didn't take me I don't think it took me quite as long to do as page 4, but except for those little critters there in the first panel, that took me a while. Like that was probably the most of everything on that page. That was like for whatever reason, those were the most time consuming. Like trying to decide, like, okay, what colors do I want all these different little guys to be? And then even then, some of them ended up kind of looking too much the same. Like I wanted them to all feel like different and sort of mismatched and weird little robot things. But I don't know if I was successful or not. I feel like it's too soon to really look at it. But these are the finished pages, and this is after I scanned them, but before I cleaned them up. And here's a look kind of behind the curtain of like the way I do the lettering. So I pull all the lettering off, I clean it up in Photoshop, and I put it back on there as best I can with it, trying to make it still look like the original, but then be legible and print ready. So this is what I was talking about with the wrenchies. These are thumbnails for a new cover, and this is the rough sketch. And Floating World Comics is going to do a crowdfunder for a new edition of this, so this is the new cover. It's pretty exciting, and this is a sort of more finished drawing, and then this is the actual finished drawing, and I think this is just like a picture, and then this is like a scan that I did of it. So look for that crowdfunder or Kickstarter, whatever we're doing this year, hopefully around October or something like that. Hey, I have a store, and you can get most of my books there. And also, this is my latest thing, this 32-page Robot Todd tie-in, SEPT and EMBER from Floating World Comics, and I have a Patreon. So you can read all these Robot Todd pages over there and see lots of cool drawings and other process stuff. It's only $2 a month. It helped me out a lot, and I'd love to see you there. Thanks for watching the video.